Hello, and welcome to another edition to the Playbook for Performance podcast. My name is Shauna Corden. I'm your host. My mission is to make work fun again by building better leaders. So this month we're talking about spring cleaning your work relationships, spring cleaning your life. Last week we talked about the idea of boundaries and how boundaries are a great way for you to have a fence between what you really want in your life and what you want to keep out of your life. And we talked about a script that you could use to inform people who are used to you behaving in a certain way that may be outside of your personal values and standards, and how you could use this insert the blank Mad Lib style script in order to inform these people about how you'll be behaving in the future when you encounter these things that are outside your boundaries. And I'd love to hear how that went for you. If you need more support, if we need to amplify this so it's more clear, please let us know. We're here to support you. So on to today's topic. Today we're talking about standards. It's the companion to boundaries. In the fact that boundaries are what people may say or do or behave around you, your standards are your own personal rules about how you would behave for yourself. So this is your own personal code of conduct. Sometimes I liken it to a manifesto. It's this whole idea of this is how I see the world, this is how I operate, this is how I want to conduct myself. So one of the stories I wanted to share when it comes to this whole idea of your own personal standards is this idea of what high standards are and what settling is. So Megyn Kelly wrote a book 3, 4, 5 years ago called Settling for More. And it was based on this reflection that she had watching a Dr. Phil show. And as a coach, I love Dr. Phil because when he wants to be really provocative and he wants to tell someone, you're being an idiot, without saying that, he has this provocative response in, and how's that working for you? Which I love. But back to the Megyn Kelly story. She was watching an episode where he was kind of encouraging someone to raise their standards. And he said, the only thing that's different between you and those that you envy is that you have settled for less. So the only thing different between you and those that you envy, you have settled for less. And so the title of her book was Settling for More. She wanted to make sure that she was upgrading her personal standards and expectations of what she would tolerate in her life, but also how she was going to operate as a person. I have taught this lesson umpteen times. Like 30,000 people I have taught these personal foundations classes. I think they're so important for how we operate as humans. I think it is like the basic instructions that we all should have before we leave high school. But unfortunately, I'm teaching this at the corporate level where people have spent a lot of their time in life already, but they never really mastered these skills. And so if I can be of assistance to your team, to your family, to help teach these personal standards, your church group, anything like that, let me know. It's 20 lessons, but this is just one of them. So when we come back to this idea about measuring your satisfaction in life, what you're settling for, we don't want to look at just like it's okay. We want to look at how does it compare to your potential. And I personally have made this mistake. This is something that I am working on in terms of don't just settle for like the quick and easy way to do something. Think about what you're really capable of and then shoot for that highest level. So I want more. I don't want to settle for less, which means the best way to do that is to create higher standards. But it's really important that with our standards, we don't set them aspirationally, because then it turns into a should. And in coaching, we talk about how should is not good. You don't want to should on yourself. That's a suggestion that the value comes from somewhere else, a societal expectation, a parental expectation, perhaps a management expectation, but it's not something really important to you. And we want to make sure that everything you pursue is coming from the heart. It's truly you. It's not egocentric. It's not a quid pro quo that you're doing this in order to get something else, etc. So we really want to make sure that all of your standards that you set for yourself are truly intrinsically motivated. So here are some examples of just basic standards, and I would call these low personally. Don't kick the dog. Be helpful when asked. Pay your bills on time. Okay? Low standards. Medium standards. Be courteous. Say please. Say thank you. Don't give rude gestures to other drivers on the highway. Tell the truth. Okay? Even when it's painful. Be positive. And let others be right. Okay? Those are some more medium to high standards. The highest standards are the ones that not only make your life better, but they also meet your needs. So this could be things like daily meditation, eating well, eating real food, exercising regularly, doing things for others without being asked because you see that they need to be done, things like that. Those are all examples. Now, again, think about the personality assessments that are out there. Myers-Briggs, DISC, etc. Those sorts of assessments will ask the same question over and over again in different criteria, different situations, different settings to see if you will answer consistently, because they don't want you to answer the questions aspirationally, because then you can never follow through with how you think you're supposed to behave. And that's probably one of the biggest complaints I have as a leadership coach, is because when I'm coaching folks and they tell me, oh, I just read the latest leadership book by so-and-so, and I'm doing their 10 steps. If they read a book a month, let's say, a book a quarter, and they keep revising what that standard is for leadership. Now, I'm not against tools, tips, tricks. I think they're awesome. But I want you to lead authentically, something that's natural to you, something that's already in line with your values. Because otherwise what happens is when you're under stress, you fold, right? You can't keep up with all of that, and you're going to revert to your most basic level. And so for a lot of people, it might be I ask. When I'm under stress, I get into driver mode and I tell. Well, people don't know how to respond to that situation because it's unpredictable. And so instead, we really want to lead from that place where it's natural, it's authentic, you don't have to think about it, it's your default mode. Same thing with standards. We don't want to name something as a standard until it's something that we're already doing. We don't want it to be aspirational. Now, you can raise your standards. Like one of the exercises that I regularly ask my clients to do is take a look around. What do you admire about other people's lives? So in the Dr. Phil case, what have you settled for less for? What are some of the habits and behaviors that would suggest that would be in alignment with you? And can you start experimenting? Can you practice this a little bit? So maybe you're not a meditator today. Meditate 1 minute every morning before you get out of bed. You can increase that as you go. But again, we don't want to go from 0 to 100. We don't want to go from couch potato to marathon runner. We really want to get to a point where we have such a strong foundational base that it gets to the point where it feels weird not to meditate for that 1 minute every morning. And then you can say, I'm a meditator. Okay? So experiment, look around. A personal example for me is I have a sister-in-law whom I adore. And one of the things that I really admire about her home is that everything is very intentionally put in its place. So it's not random clutter that makes her happy. She has selected every piece because it looks great there, it's functional there, it's beautiful, and it brings them joy. if it doesn't do those things, it doesn't have a place in their home. So that's one of the things that I really admired, because frankly, with 2 kids at home and everything else, I was guilty of, here's a landing horizontal spot. This can sit here for a while. And then after a while, it just sort of blends into the background. You don't even notice that your jacket has been sitting on the back of that chair for 3 weeks. So that was an example of one of those things that I was able to aspire to. It helped when my kids moved out of the house. I love you, Cassandra and Sophie. So, what's the behavior that you're really looking to change and still be you? Again, raising those standards so you're settling for more. What can you change and have it still be you? And one of the things that I think is probably the easiest, most rewarding example is to put people ahead of results. So checking in with people. How are they feeling? How are they doing? How can you support them? What would make this easier for them, etc. Because then you've got enough momentum and power with 2 people going towards this goal than just one. So that's a great example. It will fulfill that. So I'm going to invite you, just like we did last week, to Mad Lib style. Again, if you didn't hear the podcast last week and you're not in the United States, Mad Libs is a game that children would often play, where it was a template that told a story, but the audience doesn't know the story, but you simply ask them for verbs, nouns, etc., and you fill it in. And then after it's all filled in, then you read the story aloud to the group, and usually they have submitted ridiculous words for the context of the story, and everybody has giggles. It's a great amount of fun. So Mad Lib style, we're going to offer some sentences here. You get to insert your word that helps you understand what your personal standards are. So I am someone who blank. I am someone who lives blank. I am someone who cares deeply about blank. I fuel my body with blank. And after you've done enough of these things, feel free to expand this into lots of areas. This becomes what I call a little manifesto for yourself. So when I teach professional foundations, this is one of the final assignments for my class. They talk about, in manifesto style, how they are going to run their practice, the clients that they support, the way that they welcome their clients, how they conduct their business, etc., etc., etc. So it's super rewarding to just have everybody catalog how they operate on a piece of paper, and it often turns into a piece of marketing material for them and a way for their clients to get to know them better. So I really want to encourage you, as part of your homework, to expand this to include how you operate in your day, how you manage your schedule, etc. And if you're really robust about this, you can pursue it ISO 9000 style, where it talks about even the order in which you do these activities that we're talking about. So a little bit more here about some examples that you might want to include. When I first started teaching personal foundations, 20 years ago now, I think, one of the things that was not so common back then, but fairly new in the Northwest. Northwest, I think, is a big environmentally conscious area. We've got all our mountains and our oceans and our desert all around us here. I often carried a reusable water bottle instead of, buying single-use water bottles, and I carried with me reusable bags. Now I think you see them everywhere. In my local town, if you want a bag, the store will charge you 5 cents for a bag, and they don't provide plastic bags. So I think we've always been on the forefront in this area, but those were a couple of examples of some of my personal standards. One of my newest ones this year is I have 2 days of the week that I do not meet with clients or take any meetings. Those are days that I'm creating content, self-care, reading up on materials that help serve my clients, things like that. You can think about your own standards for these things and some of them start as aspirations, but you want to wait to name them until you're really practicing them. So your homework this week, because you all know this saying, if you don't do the homework, it's just entertainment. Coaching is coaching because of the action that we take. We're moving forward. So your homework this week, write down your personal standard statements suggesting who you are, how you operate, and in summary, what your standards are. If you want the gold star, if you want the A+ circled in red ink, include how you operate in your day, how you schedule your time, because our time is our most valuable commodity, and we all get the same amount. So, again, if you'd like to do a workshop for your team, talking about boundaries, standards, I often combine this with needs, because these are the three things that really fuel us internally. This is what we call the who in coaching. So if you'd like to do a workshop for your team, we can schedule these in 45-minute webinars, and they work great. It's usually 45 minutes of instruction, workshop style, then 15 minutes Q&A, super rewarding. These are the kinds of workshops that really up employee engagement. And regularly when we survey people after these webinars, what I hear is, I feel like my manager cares about me as a person because they've invested company money, company time in improving me as a human. So I can't recommend these enough for all of you leaders to do it for yourselves, to do it for your team. If you'd like to do a workshop, email me, Shauna@ShaunaCorden.com. You can check out the website as well. So a reminder, we're still doing our survey to inform the new book. If you haven't heard about the book is Reunited, Overcoming Our Polarized Society, talking about how in the last few years, most people name it before the 2016 U.S. election, people became more and more polarized in their opinions. And what used to be, let's agree to disagree on this topic, is I've cut you off, you're dead to me, you're no longer my friend, and I can't do business with you anymore. And people are regretful about this. They are sad that these relationships are no longer in their life, but they don't know how to come back together again. So, Reunited. Survey is down in the show notes. Please complete our survey, forward it to your friends. We really need this data. In the meantime, take good care. I'll talk to you all next week.